My good thing this week. I want to talk about the Norris Trophy race, and I think we all can agree. I don't care who you are. There's not. I mean, there might be some dark horse out there, but I think we can agree that it's really coming down to two players: Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche and Roman Josi of the Nashville Predators. I'm just going to throw this right out there. These two players have been electric. I mean, no surprise. I mean, Roman Josi has been the captain for the Nashville Predators for many years, and he continues to show that age is not a thing. He's 31 years old, which doesn't seem like very like a lot, but you know, when you're against players like Cale Makar, who's 23 years old, fresh out, in his third season, you're playing against people who are these players that are spring chickens, as we say. They're a lot faster. They and the game's moving in a direction that is blowing some players by, and not for Roman Josi. And it's quite amazing to see. And then on the other side, you've seen Cale Makar at such a young age be such an absolute necessity for that Colorado Avalanche team. His 200-foot game is incredible. I guess I'm just gonna straight up ask you, James, if you were to vote, who's your Norris Trophy winner this year?
See, this is a very, very tough question to answer because they're both really great players, and if you look at their stats are eerily similar. Roman Josi has more points overall because he has a little bit more assists, but Cale Makar has more goals. Time on ice is pretty much the same, about 25 per. And I've watched a lot more of Cale Makar because I've watched a lot more like Western hockey, as opposed to I don't really watch Nashville too much. It's just they don't pop up, But my vote has to go with Roman Josi. Reason being, he's putting up spectacular numbers right now with a lesser team. The majority of his points are coming off of assists, and he has less people to give the puck to than Cale Makar does with the Avalanche. Let's be real, man. The Avalanche are stacked. Their lines 1 through 4 all going to be really good. When you have a team that good, it's going to be a little bit easier to just move the puck up and hopefully you get a goal within 2 passes. And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
On the other side with Nashville, Roman Josi moving the puck, getting into the offensive zone, doing his thing out there because that's what he needs to do to make this team succeed. And he's making that huge playoff push right now. The Nashville Predators are making the push. They've won the last 6 games or something like that. I can't remember. But in the last 5 games, he's put up 8 points. And this team is rolling. He is a main proponent to why this team is doing so well, and he's trying to make his team get a good spot in the playoffs. And that's exactly what he's doing. And Roman Josi deserves this trophy now because of what he's doing. And it's crazy to say that I'm voting against Cale Makar, who is the future of NHL defensemen. But Roman Josi deserves this flat out.
Tyler, where do you stand? I mean, do you agree with James in taking the quote unquote old guy, or do you think James is missing something here?
James, I see your Josi, but I'm going to raise you a Makar. And here's why. So I like what you said, but I think I'm going to kind of flip the logic there a little bit, and I think it's almost more impressive when you're the leader of a great team versus leader of a bad team. When you're the leader of a bad team, he's
not the leader.
Okay, the highest point scorer, right? He's on a Nashville Predators team that doesn't have a lot of depth scoring wise. Which, yes, that's impressive because the other team's going to just pretty much attack you the whole time, and you're still putting up numbers. That's awesome. But also, your team's going to be feeding you the puck more because you're the only guy that can really make those kind of plays. Makar is on an Avalanche team that has so much depth, and there's so many guys that can score. And he's the one pretty much leading that facilitation of everything and leading this great team to its heights. So you have a great team, and the player that's the catalyst of that, and that's Makar. And I think, Josi has more points, which, if we're talking best offensive defenseman, you'd think the most points would win it. That would be the easy answer there. But I think Makar, just the play overall is just better. I think he's also a slightly better defenseman than Josi is. I know that doesn't really necessarily matter as much with this kind of voting, but I do think when it's so close like this, I think you have to take those things into consideration. Also, Josi has won the Norris before, correct?
Yeah.
Or has he not?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I was kind of looking at the history of the Norris and stuff, and I feel like the repeat winners aren't as common with that. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like as far as the voters go, they're going to reward a guy that hasn't been there before, and that is basically back-to-back seasons, because he could have easily won this last year too. And he's putting up a second consecutive great season. I feel like they're going to reward that.
Do you forget that the Norris Trophy is for defensemen, Tyler?
Yeah.
Right. And so,
I don't forget, I know that.
Typically, the point man for an offense will be your center for the most part. And so you can't really
whoa, what?
Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about.
What? What are you talking about now? Not necessarily. Easy.
But the fact of the matter is like defensemen will push the puck forward.
Yes.
And then we'll go from there. And then they won't really attack. They won't sit in the offensive zone and really wait for the puck to cycle back as much as a centerman or a forward would. And so, yeah, you can like stick and attack Josi or Makar all you want, but they really aren't the ones pushing the pace. They're giving an outlet pass, and you're hoping for the best.
I mean,
and so like you can sit back and like attack Roman Josi all you want, but once he passes it forward and gets it to a forward, you're now relying on your forwards to produce and get points. With a better team, your stats will be inflated, aka the Avs. With a worse team, like the Predators, he has to really work for that shit, man. He's really got to push that offensive zone and got to get up there and make extra passes on top of just the one pass.
I think that is the point that I was going to take, James. Is the possession exits out of the zone? Zone exits to me are a big thing, and the crazy thing about this argument is to say that Roman Josi has been a better zone zone exit stats than Cale Makar is crazy, because Cale Makar is like maybe second, or he's right there. You know, he's great, but the one thing that offensively, I think they're almost a wash. I mean, besides Roman Josi's 25 points in 11 games since March 1st, that was as of the 24th, which is insane. I mean, as a whole, offense is a wash. Defensively, I actually probably agree with you, Tyler, in that I think he is a better defenseman, which is actually a very important part of this whole argument, in that he is a great 200-foot player. The one thing that I'm going to say, and I think this is very similar to what James was saying, is I think that strength of team matters. And you look at Colorado, they're the best in the West. They're arguably one of the best teams in the NHL. And Cale Makar is of his status, which, that is amazing. That's fantastic. But he's really running the show on the back end there for a team that is absolutely amazing, both in net, offensively, defensively, as a whole. It makes it a lot easier for you to get, solid defensive and offensive numbers. On the other hand, Roman Josi is playing on a team that is borderline not a playoff team. I mean, they're fighting for that playoff spot, and he's putting up these numbers, and he's moving the puck up ice, as James mentioned, and is being such a beast on the back end that is keeping his teams in games. Like he's running his team in a different they're just different teams, and I think that that may be appreciated at the very end of this. Now, with that said, you could argue that this is a coin flip, and that's why we're having this argument, right? But I guess I want to throw it back at Tyler. I'm like, does the strength of team matter for you, or are you still firm in that, Cale Makar is a younger but more, maybe stronger defenseman, defensively, yada yada. What are your thoughts after that?
Yeah, I think it plays a part. I don't think it's, I guess when it's so close like this, I think those things come to light more brighter, because I just think it's such a razor edge of difference. And so I think the biggest difference between the two is really the team they're playing on. And I think that is the biggest difference, right? You have a Makar that's on the best team in the league versus a Josi who's on a team that's, scratching and clawing to try and make a playoff spot, right? So the gap between the teams is very different. But I mean, if it's an individual award, you want to reward the individual, but you also have to consider the team they're on. Of course you do. So I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't necessarily like when a lot of leagues, reward or will give the tiebreaker if it's just because they're on a better team. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go about it. I do understand that it should play a role and a factor in your decision for that, but to me, like whether or not he's on the Avalanche or he's on the Ottawa Senators, like I don't really, if he's putting up great numbers and he's doing it consistently against every team in the league. That to me is what matters. Like, are you putting up these points against the lowest team in the league, and are you also putting up like against the best team in the league? Or are you doing it consistently? That's what matters to me. I mean, I don't think the team performance is a very small percentage of what I would put into my thought process of that.
James, any last thoughts on this one?
You mentioned that it's not just necessarily a team award; it's an individual award. But just looking at straight numbers, Roman Josi has the better individual numbers
in terms of points, right?
In terms of points, yeah.
Possession numbers to Tyler's point are in favor of Cale Makar. Whether that's
would you rather have points or would you rather have possession?
Probably possession, because that's
so you'd rather hold the puck for all 60 minutes as opposed to winning.
If you hold the puck for 60 minutes, the puck ain't going in your own net. I mean, that's why those possession numbers are so important, right? And that's why I've really come to look at those numbers a little bit heavier than I ever used to. It's still an eye test thing, and to be honest with you guys, this is, we could argue this till we're blue in the face. It's going to be so close, but can we all agree? This what I'm about to say here is, it's one of these two for sure, right? Like, there's no one else that even comes close, right, at this point.
Nah.
James?
What about Victor Hedman?
Here's the thing. Victor Hedman could always be considered for this award. Always. And actually, I think that's a great point. But I just think this year, I think the other two, very similar to how Adam Fox was last year, he just pushed above everybody else. These two are just pushing above everybody else. Is Victor Hedman going to be in the top 5? 100%. I mean, for sure. And he always will be. But he just doesn't quite have the numbers to support this. And at the end of the day, I have to think it's going to be one of these two. But Victor Hedman is probably the closest, or Adam Fox. Adam Fox is now always going to be there. He might be the next best thing.
Don't you miss him? This should be like the Brett Burns award.
Sorry?
Didn't Brett Burns win this like multiple times?
Yeah, the thing, he only did that because he had massive offensive numbers. Defensively, Brent Burns is so bad.
So you're saying that if you have great offensive numbers and be shit at defense, you can win this award.
No, that's true. But if your defensive numbers suck, then you're getting walked, and you're having to make up for it in just straight offense. These other two don't have to do that. I mean, they could pull off the breaks offensively and still keep the puck out of the net, keep the puck on their stick, move the puck up ice. And that's the ultimate question: is, are we going to move this award to the best offensive defenseman, or is it the best all around defenseman?
Is it how would you describe it? Isn't it the best offensive defenseman?
Nope, it's not. It's the best. It's the best all around defenseman in the NHL. So,
all right.
There you go.
Greatest all-around ability in the position, whatever that means, and that's what we're arguing. So that's why Brent Burns got it. I mean, maybe, I guess, to your point, James, he scored so much that he didn't have to worry about it. But that was great.